Come back to France now, where a fishing ban begins today off most of the western coastline. The month-long ban is meant to cut the number of dolphins killed in fishing nets this time of year, but the moratorium has many French fishermen up in arms. Solange Mougin and France Television have the story.
Returning to port after a long day on the water. Before the deadline to cease trawling, Julien Annès was out catching as many fish as possible. For him, France's fishing ban is absurd.
We already had 10 days of bad weather in early January. That means small boats will already be behind financially. This month-long ban needs to stop. End of story.
For the second year running, boats that are over 8 meters long are not allowed to fish in the Bay of Biscay from January 22nd to February 20th. The goal is to save the lives of thousands of dolphins. In the winter months, they're particularly present in these waters and get caught and killed in trawler nets. Thrown overboard, many of them wash up along shorelines. Thousands are killed every year. But the near-month-long ban, which touches nearly all commercial fishing, also has an economic effect on the industry, even if financial compensation is given by the state.
C'est frustrant. C'est frustrant.
It's really frustrating because it's our livelihood. I don't understand it. A month does nothing because dolphins, for about a year now, we've got a lot of them.
On a énormément de dauphins.
But studies show just the opposite. The thousands of dolphin deaths from fishing nets are putting the species at risk for regional extinction. And scientists say that last year's ban was successful. In just a month, the number of accidental deaths was divided by 4.
There are accidental bycatches all year long, but the number of them increases by a lot in the winter between December and March. Last winter, we believe a total of 1,450 dolphins were killed as bycatch, whereas previous winters, the death toll was around 6,000 found dead. So we saw with the ban a steep drop last year.
Other nations like South Africa and Australia have also enacted similar moratoriums with equally positive results.
That report from Solange Mougin, who joins me now on the set. Solange, tell us a bit more about this. Who does this ban affect to what degree? Like, what are the numbers?
Well, this is the second time that the ban has gone into effect, and it's actually expected to be rolled out next winter as well. We'll get into the political and activist backstory on how this came about in a minute. But currently, this ban, as we just heard, runs from today, January 22nd, until February 20th. It is expected to cease the activity of some 300 French and foreign fishing boats in the Bay of Biscay, or the Golfe de Gascogne, as it's called in French. So that is a massive chunk of a French coastline that is essentially off limits to most, if not all, commercial fishing for the next 4 weeks. The ban concerns essentially trawlers, or boats that cast wide nets or pull in unison nets to catch a whole slew of the different fish that we eat. Unfortunately, these nets also kill and trap dolphins that then wash up on France's shores a few days later, or they sink to the bottom of the ocean, so the real number of deaths is actually unknown. Now, the state has allocated a budget this year of 20 million euros to compensate the fishermen and the industry for this mandatory month off of fishing. So they will receive between 80 and 85% of their lost income.
Okay, so if they're being compensated, why is the fishing industry still so unhappy?
Well, there is a psychological element of being told you essentially can't do your job. And there is also still an economic impact. Some fishermen have complained that they didn't receive their compensation quickly enough last year. The government has now said that it'll be faster this time. Also, the fishing industry claims that the overall impact of this ban is about 10 million euros more than what is being given. The Environment and Fishing Minister replied to this in turn and said, hold on, Spanish fishermen are being compensated 46%, France's 85% isn't so bad. But beyond these economic numbers, there is a bigger picture here, and that is the conflict between industry, protecting the environment, and politics.
All right, so give us a bit more of the backstory. How did this 1 month ban first come about?
Well, it's a lot of activism, and it's a lot of political and judiciary stances backed by science on the dire need to protect the environment and to protect these mammals. According to Le Monde and the research group Pelagis, around 9,000 common dolphins die every year off the Atlantic coast, with many of these deaths being from the fishing industry. That figure is nearly double the maximum number of 4,900 deaths that can occur without the species being in danger. That is according to the CIEM, an international body that studies this. So too many dolphins are dying, as well as other cetaceans. And they have been at least since the 1990s. And people along France's coastlines are noticing this, with thousands of dolphins washing up in the winter. Now, a growing ecological consciousness has helped push for solutions, along with rather graphic campaigns by watchdogs and by environmentalist groups like Sea Shepherd that have rung alarm bells against these fishing methods. They are now on their 8th year of a campaign to save France's dolphin population, and have in previous years not only filmed the practices of these fishing boats to prove that this is occurring, but also they have done protests in front of monuments like the Eiffel Tower with dead dolphins to raise awareness. Now, such campaigns have put pressure on politicians to act. In September last year, the EU sent out a directive about such a ban, and France has enacted it last year for the first time. Now, again, they're expected to do it again next year. France's Constitutional Court has also, when faced with legal challenges to this, said that it should be put in place at least until 2026, with the hope of other solutions being found.
All right, Solange, thanks so much for that look at French fishing and that moratorium that goes on for a month.